The night the world changed for her didn't begin with thunder, but with silence, an aching, trembling silence that wrapped itself around a young girl who had never spoken a word in her life. She sat alone inside the dim little diner where she worked, her hands shaking as she scribbled in her worn notebook. Outside, shadows moved in the parking lot, shadows holding guns, shadows creeping closer. And across from her sat 35 of the roughest, most feared bikers in the state, men people whispered about, crossed the street to avoid, and never dared to challenge. Yet in that moment, she realized she would have to save them, or die trying. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of unexpected heroes, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps us keep telling stories that matter. Her name was Alma, 17, quiet, invisible to most of the world. She had been born without the ability to speak, but she never lacked courage, not where it counted. She worked late shifts at the diner to help her grandmother, who had raised her alone, and she always moved with her head slightly bowed, as if the world expected nothing from her. That night, the bikers, members of a notorious motorcycle club, had taken over the corner booths, leather vests gleaming under the low lights, laughter echoing like thunder rolling across metal. They looked like men who feared nothing. But Alma saw something they didn't, danger creeping toward them like a tightening noose. She was refilling a coffee cup when she caught the reflection in the window, figures slipping between cars, the metallic glint of weapons. Her heart punched her ribs. She froze, stunned, cold. For one terrifying second, she couldn't breathe. She had no voice to shout, no cry to raise, no sound to warn them. And by the time they noticed, it would be too late. Her hands moved before her fear could stop them. She tore a sheet from her notebook and scribbled with trembling strokes, "Men with guns outside." But when she turned, the leader of the bikers, broad, tattooed, with a beard that could have intimidated a bear, was staring right at her. He frowned, confused, almost irritated. She knew she had only seconds before disaster reached the door. She thrust the message into his hand. For a moment the world stood still. Then his eyes widened, sharp and calculating. He signaled silently to his men, and the entire mood of the diner shifted. These weren't just bikers, they were disciplined, battle-hardened, alert. Within seconds, they had moved into defensive positions. Alma backed away, watching in dread, praying she wasn't too late. The standoff that followed felt like an eternity, shouting, scattering footsteps, engines roaring, and eventually, tires screeching into the night as the armed attackers fled. Realizing they had been spotted, when it was over, the bikers were shaken but alive. 35 men who might never have seen the sunrise owed their lives to a girl who couldn't speak. And for the first time in Alma's life, people were looking at her not with pity, not with impatience or dismissal, but with awe. The biker leader approached her slowly, his expression unreadable. She expected anger. She expected maybe blame, maybe disbelief. But instead, he placed a heavy hand over his heart, then over hers, a silent gesture of respect, one she never could have imagined receiving. She bowed her head, overwhelmed, unable to process what she'd just done. News traveled fast through the motorcycle club. Within days, the entire group knew about the mute teenage waitress who had risked her life for them. They visited the diner not with roaring bravado, but with quiet gratitude. They tipped her too much, insisted on walking her home, made sure she felt protected in ways she never had before. In Alma, they saw not a weak girl, but a warrior wrapped in silence. Yet the true turning point came when they visited her home for the first time. Her grandmother welcomed them with suspicion at first, but curiosity softened her. When she learned how Alma had saved them, her eyes filled with tears, tears she tried and failed to hide. The bikers saw the chipped walls, the sparse furniture, the signs of hardship etched into the house. They saw Alma studying alone at a rickety table, hands moving gracefully in sign language no one around her understood. They saw her future, brilliant but barricaded by lack of opportunity, and something shifted in them. These were men the world had judged, men with bruised histories, lost years, and broken paths. But Alma gave them a purpose they hadn't known they were missing. They asked questions, slowly at first, about her condition, about schools that supported deaf children, about the opportunities she never had. They learned that the nearest school for deaf kids was not only overcrowded but underfunded and turning away students every year. Alma had been one of those children denied a place. It wasn't right. And they decided to change it. What began as a simple thank you unfolded into something extraordinary. The club launched fundraisers, sold custom bikes, held charity rides, and rallied communities that normally feared them. They partnered with builders, teachers, and donors. And within months, on a quiet piece of land overlooking the hills, the framework of a school began to rise. A school for 250 deaf children. On opening day, Alma stood at the entrance holding giant red scissors, her hands trembling again, but this time from joy. Hundreds of children who had struggled like she had gathered behind her, eyes bright with hope. The bikers stood around them like guardians, wearing patched vests but softened expressions. The leader nodded at her, his eyes proud and warm. When she cut the ribbon, the crowd erupted, not in noise she would never hear, but in movement, clapping hands, waving arms, dancing feet, swirling excitement. Alma felt every vibration, every heartbeat of the moment. She felt seen. She felt powerful. And for once, she felt like her silence was not a limitation but a language that had reached hearts that words never could. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. Before we end, please comment, "Hope Lives Everywhere," to let us know you're one of the amazing viewers who stayed till the end.